everybody. Welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. Don't know if you can see the light over here. I mentioned that thousands of other times before. I film with natural light, and therefore the light will sometimes be hitting me, and I really can't do anything about it because that's what happens when you film with natural light. Anyway, let me preface this by saying a lot of times I understand that a lot of people may not really, and I don't want to say comprehend, but may not completely understand the point of videos like this, or why they actually exist, or why we have discussions like this. I've noticed over the course of the last 6 or 7 years, I've been in the cryptocurrency space for a very long time. A lot of people tend to think of cryptocurrencies quite abstractly. A lot of people who've been in the cryptocurrency space for less than 3-4 years, I'll give it even a good 5, tend to not understand the actual idea of what cryptocurrencies are there for. A lot of people who have gotten into the market, and I'd even give it a good since 2020, maybe early 2020, when everyone's inside their house, couldn't really leave, a lot of people were looking for things to do. And one of the things that many people found to do was actually investing, putting their money into stuff, trying to make more money. It became popularer because of the entire GameStop and stock market thing, and everyone was completely losing their minds. A lot of people who are into Bitcoin, because of this and the cryptocurrency space, tend to not actually, once again, I say this lightly, actually understand the point of cryptocurrencies. You were probably told, especially in the very beginning, cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin, were for criminals, were for crooks, were for people who were trying to launder money, were for people who had no other thing to invest their money into, and this is why you saw all the people in the very beginning telling you to invest in gold and to invest in other things that actually made zero sense because Bitcoin has far outperformed all of them. The original point of Bitcoin, and it still remains in a very small fraction of the community, of people who were here in the early days, is actually, besides decentralization, it's getting away from the previous monetary system. That's the core center of it. And a lot of people tend to not believe this or understand it because they got into the market just to simply make some very quick money. They got into the market after someone else told them that they made money, or they heard about the market in the very beginning and it was simply Bitcoin's at 10,000, Bitcoin's at 1,000, Bitcoin's at 15,000, Bitcoin's at $800, and these constant fluctuations, so it makes them terrified, and a lot of people, once again, are usually only in the market for the money. Cool, I get it. This is an investing channel, like I understand being in it for the money, but the point of Bitcoin is to get away from the old financial system. It has been, dare I even say, predicted by many of the very early people in the cryptocurrency space. I'm talking about 2010, 2011, like that long ago, if you will, who actually called a lot of the world events that are currently going on right now. The collapse of governments, inflation, hyperinflation, people looking for safe havens, if you will, comparative to other things that they would normally have their money in. And this kind of translates into the idea that Bitcoin is not just a way for you to tell your friends that you made $8 million. It's meant to be a system that is slowly adopted by everyone around the world. And therefore, as the adoption continues to rise, Bitcoin's price continues to rise. As Bitcoin's price historically, as we've seen, actually ends up going higher, it becomes far less volatile. The idea being that as we get millions and millions of more people into Bitcoin, into the system, it's being used for this and that and blah, 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 blah. Eventually, Bitcoin's price will become, mathematically, this is something that will happen if we continue to see the current levels of adoption continuing on, at least into the year 2035, or something around there. Bitcoin's price will eventually, or would eventually, become as stable as the US dollar or the euro or the yen. That is not to say that Bitcoin's price will always be fixed on one exact number, the same exact way that the dollar, the euro, and the yen never are. It would be comparatively to other currencies, this is where it kind of would land. I hope I made myself clear. It's meant to be a system to get us away from the old system. We saw what happened in 2008. in 2009. It's meant to be something that we slowly transition into, that we begin to put our money into, and eventually it becomes so big that we can start using it as a current of measurement, like an actual currency or something we can say that this is based off of the price of Bitcoin and or Satoshis. And as time ends up going on, and once we have around 3, 4, 5 billion people on the planet who are into this new system called Bitcoin, Bitcoin's price will have risen so high that we no longer have to then base our other metrics on the euro, the dollar, or the yen, which are constantly inflationary as Bitcoin is deflationary. That's the entire idea. So that's the, I wanted to, it's a very long preface, I know, but I have to say that because sometimes I'll say things either on this channel or the other channel, and I get a lot of questions and people, it's not your fault per se, but I think a lot of people weren't here from the beginning and don't really understand what all of this market is supposed to actually mean and what it's supposed to mean for your life, your family, and other people in the future. You're meant to live in a world where you are actually not incentivized to work more every single day. You're incentivized to simply hold on to Bitcoin. The value of Bitcoin continues going up. As it is deflationary, the value of things actually tend to go down comparatively to Bitcoin. So the one Bitcoin you held before, the day before, is worth more than 24 hours previously. I think I said that correctly. So the point is, a lot of people probably don't even know Hal Finney. Hal Finney is one of the very original people from the cryptocurrency space. He's one of the main people that actually got a lot of other people into the cryptocurrency and Bitcoin space when they realized that he might have actually been onto something by what he was saying. He's one of the very few people who actually predicted that Bitcoin not only would succeed, but that Bitcoin would actually also eventually have a very high price, which is the thing that we need in order for Bitcoin to actually become a world currency. And I stand back and don't say the world currency, because I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with that phrase. Around 12 years ago, Hal Finney predicted that Bitcoin would eventually hit $10 million per coin. So let me explain. Another developer named Adam Back recently started looking at the charts. When someone says something in 2011, 2010, you go, okay, cool, that sounds amazing. Well, let's see what actually happens. But when you get to the year 2023, hello, we're actually in the future, and you look back at all the charts and look at all the numbers, you kind of come to the conclusion, or like you look at patterns for things that were previously taking place. Adam Back has realized by looking at the charts that historically, every single year, Bitcoin has actually doubled in price. Now, I know someone just slammed their hand on the computer and was like, well, that's not true. I've seen Bitcoin going down. Let me explain. Hold on a second. The point is, you know how like every single time you've ever heard someone say you should put your money into the stock market, what's the one thing they always say? Historically, on average, the stock market returns, right, they always say between 7 to 8% per year. How can that be possible? You see the stock market go up, it slams back down, it goes back up. It's never a straight line. However, on average, if you pulled that line out and made it completely straight from the 1940s to the 1950s until right now, you would see that even during the crash of '87 and the crash of 2008, if you pulled it out, historically, every year on average, it has returned roughly 7 to 8% of people's money who have put money inside of it. That's the idea. If you took Bitcoin's price and stretched it out to where we currently are right now, every year, mathematically, it has actually doubled in price. Right. So he says that Adam Back, he says he saw the charts, he saw that what Hal Finney said was actually true. The bit of the kicker is that we are now at the point, and this is the most important part of everything. I've been in this space for a very long time, and I've noticed a lot, like I said, a lot of the predictions that people made years ago actually ended up coming true. But it's weird to be in this time period where everything that they said 7, 8, 9 years ago are actually happening right now. We're at the point where, if you follow a guy, his name is Plan B on Twitter, very, very popular. He made a chart, and I remember listening to him about the chart in 2017, 18, 19, 20, where he's talking about exactly where Bitcoin's price is going to be, barring any type of stay inside of your home situation and or, you know what I'm insinuating. He basically said that by the year 2028, he was expecting roughly a $1 to $5 million Bitcoin. This was based on his stock to flow chart, and basically also saying like the network effect. How many people are constantly getting into Bitcoin, who's using it, how many people around the world are adopting it as a currency, which we've already seen multiple countries have actually done. It's not just El Salvador. There are about 10 other countries who are under US sanctions who have also announced that they're also using Bitcoin as a medium of exchange for imports and exports. You can look it up. It's definitely on the internet. The idea is that if we continue with this trend of Bitcoin's price doubling, I believe the number is 2.06 or something like that every year, by the year 2032, this will get us to a $10 million Bitcoin. Now, I need to explain to you the significance of a $10 million Bitcoin so that you actually understand that this is A, not something that will happen overnight as we have 9 more years left, but B, what the significance of a $1 million Bitcoin actually means. When Bitcoin gets to $500,000 per coin, it will mean that the vast majority of people who have actually invested in gold have begun to sell off their gold and actually put it into Bitcoin as it has higher returns. I don't know if I showed you the charts before, but there's a chart that shows if you had put $1 into Bitcoin in 2009 as opposed to $1 into gold in 2009, where it would be, I think you would have $1.76 worth of gold, what have you. But if you had put it into Bitcoin, you'd have several tens of thousands of hundreds of dollars at the exact same time. When we get to a $1 million Bitcoin, the idea is that people have actually begun to sell off a large number of other assets that they know will perform well, but they will not perform as well as Bitcoin. The idea is that as inflation continues, humanity will at some point agree and have the little light bulb thing go off above their head, and they'll go, this is better than me having my money in US dollars and having it in this other currency and maybe even having it in real estate. This is not sure if you can hear that. Anyway, that's the really weird part. The $10 million Bitcoin signifies that people have actually begun to lose faith, potentially even in companies. You may see that a company is getting you a 14% return over the course of a year. Wow, that company did really well. But you know that Bitcoin is about to double over the course of the next year, and therefore, this is kind of the idea for it. We are, and I know I use the term cusp quite often, but we're here. We are now in the time frame where the reason why I got into the cryptocurrency space, the things I was told have all come true, and I'm seeing them continue to unfold in front of me in this year that I'm making this video. So, how do I even end this? It's more of over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, it should become abundantly clear if we are going to see these prices. Bitcoin's next halving, so the reward that happens when Bitcoin gets mined from a computer, is getting cut in half once again next year. Every halving, Bitcoin's price always tends to skyrocket. The other halvings, we saw Bitcoin more than double in price. I think it was 4x in price, and previously before, I believe it was a 10x in price. So even though it was more than a 10x in price, it was I think 800 to 20,000 was the big one. So yeah, if this trend that has been going on for the last 14 years continues, in the next 9 years, we will live in a world that has a $10 million Bitcoin. And I have suggested to nearly all of my friends, only I believe 2 people have listened, to buy some Bitcoin simply because it's more of a gigantic what if you didn't buy it for me kind of thing. I always tell my friends, like, you may be proven right, but what if you are proven wrong? And when it's something as big as this, I think the winning side has a lot more to gain than people who don't have any kind of Bitcoin. So yeah, that's if things continue the way that they currently are right now, as they have been going over the last 14 years, we will, by the year 2032, see a $1 to $10 million Bitcoin. And I think the Bitcoin holders will be quite happy for that. Yeah, I do hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and or supporting, and I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.